Welcome back. The AAA gameplay footage you're seeing right now comes from titles that built their massive open worlds with Errant Worlds. In this video, we'll dive into the Errant Worlds plugins, the powerful toolkit behind some of the biggest and most breathtaking environments in modern game development. We'll explore Errant Landscape, so stick around, enjoy the showcase, and let's just jump straight into Errant Worlds. Hello everybody, in this video we're going to be talking about Errant Worlds. Errant Worlds is separated on three different plugins: the landscape, the biomes, and the paths. The idea behind Errant Worlds is it is built for large-scale environments and efficient teamwork. Right now Errant Worlds is used by AAA gaming studios, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to use this plugin. Errant Worlds supports major platforms like Windows, PlayStation. It also supports iOS, Android, Linux, everything. The Errant Worlds plugins are designed to work seamlessly with the Unreal Engine systems, including World Partition, PCG, and Nanite. The landscape is designed to have non-destructive stump brushes, which you can customize and start placing those brushes onto your terrain. And the Errant landscape allows placing entire mountains, hills, valleys. Everything is non-destructible and work with brushes. So you can use preset brushes or you can custom create your own brushes. Errant Landscape is designed to work on very large-scale worlds. So in general, it can scale up to work with large landscapes beyond 20x20k, so 20 kilometers by 20 kilometers. No problem to work with Errant Landscape. Also, the Errant Landscape brushes, let's say you put 1,000 of those inside your landscape and want to have micro shaping your landscape. This is possible, the performance will be great, and those brushes can be small or they can be several kilometers. It doesn't matter, the performance will be great. Also, in the Errant Landscape, you can deform the landscape in runtime. So let's say you're creating those games that you can dig, you can destroy the terrain, no problem. Errant Landscape also supports that. Previously, you needed to create a voxel landscape or procedural meshes or virtual height fields. Right now, with Errant Landscape in runtime deformation, you can create digging games or you can create other games that you start constructing the world outside. Then the second plugin is called Errant Biomes, and Errant Biomes can mix different biomes procedurally. And you will have the full control over where the biome is spawned, what is the biome, you have full control on it. The Errant Biomes also can be controllable through blueprints, through material editor, and everything is super customizable and tweakable. Errant Biomes is designed to work reliably in large-scale environments. Let's say you have 16 by 16 kilometers filled with hundreds of species and subbiomes. Thanks to its architecture, where it's optimized for GPU processing, Errant Biomes can regenerate a 1 square kilometer region in seconds. So if you're creating these huge worlds, Errant Biomes is also a tool that you want to have in your arsenal. And finally, each big world needs paths, and here you can create different paths, different tracks. You can connect electricity poles, you can connect tunnels, you name it. Everything that is looking like a path, there is a plugin for it called Errant Paths, and you can utilize the power of it. Everything about Errant Worlds you can find here under the documentation: Errant Landscape, Errant Biomes, Errant Paths. You can find the installation guide. Everything here is described and you can go into precise details. Let's say we want to know more about the stamp brushes. There is a section in the documentation that everything here about the stamp brushes is explained. But in this long video we are going to cover everything. So stay with me with this video so I can show you how powerful the Errant Worlds plugins are. And when we talk about price, there is a free trial. So if you click on the free trial, it will redirect you to a form where you need to check. Let's say I want free trial of landscape trial, and the people from Errant Photons, the guys behind the Errant Worlds, will deliver you a free trial so you can try out the plugins before you buy them. When we talk about prices, you can separately purchase each plugin, the landscape, the biomes, and the paths, or you can buy them in a bundle. Click the link in the description of this video to get additional discount, which is my discount code, discount/CGDealers. And once you get the discount, if we start toggling off, let's say we want the landscape, we're gonna have 25% off from buying this landscape plugin, and this includes a license which is valid forever, 1 year of updates, landscape material, 5 landscape runtime seeds, and a stamp brush library. You can get only the landscape for 53 bucks. And right now I downloaded the Errant landscape for Unreal 5.5. I also have the Errant landscape stamp library, and I have the Errant world's basic landscape material. You will need just to unarchive it, so right click, extract to the folder. After you extract it, just locate where you install your Unreal Engine. So I'm gonna double click on Unreal Engine 5.5, go to Engine, Plugins, and here I pasted the Errant landscape folder. Everything that is inside the plugin, it is under landscape, alright? So this is how you install the plugin. Then we fire Unreal Engine, and I already set up an empty project. You'll need to go to Edit, Plugins, go to Errant Photon, and enable the Errant landscape. Once you enable it, restart Unreal Engine. The next step is to unzip the landscape stamp library in order for me to use the stamp brushes. Then what you need to do is create a folder which is called Errant Worlds. It should be typed exactly like that, Errant with capital words. And then put the folder of Errant landscape stamp library under it. And this is the way how it should work, because the plugin is referencing this folder. And under this folder, you can find all the stamp brushes. So the first thing that I did is I've imported a Heightmap from Gaea. You can download this Heightmap for free from the link in the description of this video. And in order to import this Heightmap, just go to File, New Level, Basic Level. I'm just gonna delete this cube. I'm gonna go to Landscape, Import from File, and Heightmap File. Click on the three dots, and I'm gonna select Mountain Range. I'm gonna click Open, and I'm gonna click Import. I'm importing this Heightmap from Gaea because I want to show that if you already have a generated terrain, you can start modifying it by using the Errant landscape. No problem with that. So we're gonna work with this Heightmap and start modifying it. The first step is to select your landscape, open the menu, and here you're gonna have Errant landscape. Open the landscape, and a new panel will be shown. What you need to do first is you need to create a new Errant layer. This layer will act as a bridge between Errant landscape plugin and your current landscape. So imagine that you are in a 3D program where you start painting onto landscape, but this will be affecting our current landscape in Unreal Engine, and it will be in real time here in the editor. So once I click the create new Errant layer, I'm gonna have this layer, and here you can start spawning classes. So from here, I'm just gonna start choosing any of my brushes. So right now I have 34 items. So let's say we want to add a spiky mountain. I'm just gonna click here, click on the landscape, and we've added a spiky mountain. So in order to start tweaking it, I'm just gonna go in select mode, which is Alt S. So I'm gonna click Alt S, and right now I can select this brush that we've put and start shaping it. As you can see here, we are tweaking in real time here in the editor the Heightmap that we've imported from Gaea, and I can, push it up, push it down. So let's say I want to tweak it like that, and you can see that right now we are creating additional mountain, and it starts blending with our existing Heightmap. Or I can lower it down a little bit like that. So we just created something new, and you can use as many brushes of this as you want. So let's add one more brush. So I'm gonna go in create, and this time I'm gonna choose the moon surface. I want to create some crates over here. So let's create craters. So I'm gonna click, and I've added another brush. So I'm gonna hit Alt S to go into the selection mode, and let's start moving it. Moon surface. I'm gonna put it a little bit up to see how it looks. Okay, so right now it is shaping it too much, so I'm gonna scale it down a little bit. I want it to be less scaled, and I want it to go from that mountain to here. I want some kind of moon surface crates over there. But right now we have a problem. As you can see, it is looking like it's too down, it is cutting over here, etc. Right, and let me introduce you the first setting that is very useful. So if I expand here under Heightmap, this is a Heightmap. This is white and black texture, which is a height map. And from here you can start controlling a lot of things. So you can control what the texture is. So if you want a different moon texture, you can change it from here. You can also sample white and black from different channels. Let's say you want to have a texture with 3 different states of the moon. You can put the white and the black in the red, green and blue channel, and even the alpha, and just extract the information from there. If you go to the sampling, you can control the UV scale. Let's do 5. You can see that our crates got dense. Let's say 2, little less. And if we put 0.5, they got bigger. So I'm gonna do 2 per each, so I can have a little bit more detail. So I'm just, repeating the UVs over here. And you can also offset the UVs on a direction, on U or V. The other option that you can use is you can rotate the UVs. So you can rotate it like that. For example, let's say I want it to be 15 degrees. You can also use the load bias, which is a MIP map. So it says which MIP map to use from the stamp texture. So let's say we're going to use the 0 as it gives more details. From here, we can change the different sampler modes. You can wrap, you can clamp, you can mirror it. Let's say wrap it. We can clamp it. We're just clumping it. We are not repeating it like I put here the UV scale. So if I put 1, the edges that are empty and not connected will be clamped. But I'm just going to bring it back to 2. And you can use auto wrap clamp, or you can use auto wrap border, which will auto wrap it to the border. Or you can use a world. So I'm going to use the auto wrap border. But the nice thing is right now we are cutting a lot here. And what we can do is I'm just going to bring this to 0 and let me put the UV scale to 1, because my texture is not tileable. Keep in mind that when you start UV scaling, your texture needs to be tileable. And if your texture is not tileable, you're going to see some artifacts. But let's do something like this. And let's do 2. Okay. Here you can find that we have a little seam. So I'm just gonna bring it back to 1, as my texture is not tileable, but if you work with tileable textures, it will be good. And we can see here that our brush is creating this nasty edge. Then what we can do is go into adjustments and start using the fall off. If I click the fall off, right now everything is fixed, because here in the fall off we are saying how this will start falling off to the terrain. So if I use texture like that, it will start falling off from left to right, as this is the white, which means make it fully visible here at this edge. But let's say we want to use this large desert mountain. So I'm going to click on it, and right now the visible parts will be only in the white. If I start tweaking it like that, we have visibility in the craters only here. And this is starting to blend pretty nice. And here is the difference. Let me just show it to you. Let me just quickly switch it. Here you can see that the fall off texture is working, and it is fading out the edges, and everything is blending very good. And let's say we want to get this a little bit bigger. So let me just create and scale it up a little bit like that, so we can have this area. And I want to push it a little bit on the left. So I want to start from here and go to here. Then I'm going to enable the fall off. And you also have a lot of settings on the fall off texture. So here we choose the texture, we enable the fall off. You can start scaling the fall off, just the same as the previous one. If we do 0.5, the fall off will be a little bit bigger. If we do 0.1, you can see that it is excluding those parts. Let me show you again, 0.5. But you will see the edge over here. Let's try with 0.8, 0.9. Let's do 1. Exclude it. All right. So from the scale, you can do the same. You can offset it the same as the texture itself. You can move it like that, offsetting it. But keep in mind that the edges will be a little bit visible. So you need to be careful with this. You can also use rotation. You can also use the LOD bias. Then if we go to the levels, this is working on the grayscale here on the texture, and it's just like the Photoshop in levels. So if we start tweaking the input levels, you can see that we have more of the border over here. And if we start tweaking it up again, you can see that we start blending it a little bit better by working with the levels. You can also control the contrast over here. So if we do a lot of contrast, we will start, tweaking up and bumping all the textures over here, all the details that we have through the mask. But you can play with it a little bit just to make it smooth over here and have those nice edges, but not too much in order for you to have the nice blend still working. Then you can invert it. So right now this will work, and you're gonna have here another area which is, not the area that we want to work, but when you invert it, you will have those edges here. And of course here, what we can do is place another brushes and just clean them up. But right now I'm just gonna keep those craters over here. And the last thing that I want to show you is you can also multiply. So if we use 15, you can see that we start multiplying, and we're just multiplying the fall off mask with the actual brush that we are using. And the best part, I don't like how it should be over here. I want it to be near my mountain. All right, just move it like that. Just scale it like that. Done. It works. So those are the things that you can tweak in the Heightmap. If you want to summarize in general what this Heightmap section do, is you have absolute control over the brush, and you also have an absolute control over the fall off here. You also can control the fall off without using a texture. So right now we are using this spiky mountain Heightmap, and if we scroll all the way down over here, you have fall off start X and Y and fall off end X and Y. And by start tweaking those values, let me show you how this will change. We will start changing the fall off at the start and at the end. So let me put here 0. You can see how we are flattening this area, and if I put 1, you see how we are just raising it up. So right now you can see here we have super hard edge, and what we want is we still want to blend the start of our brush. So 0.8 seems good, and right now we don't have a hard edge. So if we tweak the fall off end X and Y, let's say 0 and 0 here, you can see that we have also this hard edge. And right now we need to tweak the start. So to get rid of this hard edge, if you want the fall off end X, Y to be, lower values, just put the fall off start X and Y to 0, 0 and start tweaking the fall off end. So let's say we want 0.2, we want 0.3. You can see that right now we're just creating this little spike in the mountain, all right? And right now what we can do is we can just start tweaking a little bit of the fall off start until we are satisfied with the result, all right? So let's say we want to create a mountain like this, just very sharp, tall mountain, all right? So you can individually work with this, the fall off start and the fall off end X and Y, without a fall off texture. The other three very useful features are the contrast, invert, and multiply. Those three are directly affecting the Heightmap. So let's start working with the contrast. If I do 3, you can see that we are bumping up the contrast in our Heightmap. But if we do 0.5, you can see that we have now softened it. The other feature is invert. What invert will do, it will just invert this Heightmap. The white will go into the black gamma and the blacks will go to white. So if I click invert, you're gonna see that our peak of the mountain is getting inside our landscape, and we're just inverting our Heightmap. And by using the multiply, you multiply the brush values before the blending. So if I go 0.3, we start multiplying the values, and let's say the contrast 0.95. You can see that we start changing our mountain significantly. And let's change the multiplier to 1.8. And right now what we've done is we've modified our Heightmap straight here by using those contrast and multiplier, and we have a completely different mountain over here. So contrast, invert, and multiply are one of the base settings that you tweak onto your Heightmap. Another great feature that we can use in the Heightmap is layered mode. Right now we are using a single layer, but there is an option where we can use stacked layers. So right now we have only this spiky mountain, and what we can do here under layer mode, I'm gonna select layered, and I have the option to add different layers. So I'm gonna click plus, and I'm gonna add the first layer. Here I need to choose the texture, and I'm going to use spiky mountain and choose the height map, which is H. All right, so I choose the height map, and right now we have this height spiky mountain. But what we can do here is we can add one more element to this array, and we can change and choose another texture. So I'm gonna search for bokeh, and I'm gonna use the bokeh mountain over here. And you can see that we start stacking together height maps. And I'm gonna go into adjustments. I'm gonna select the fall off, and I'm gonna search for the bokeh mountain height, just to use that as a fall off. And here in the blended mode, you can choose how the whole brush blends with other brushes. And let's try multiply. Let's try replace if over threshold. And we create different kind of mountain over here. You can see. So there are a lot of options and settings how you can blend them together. But the idea here is that you can stack different kind, of height textures, but from layered you can stack as many height texture as you want just to get the right result for you. So this is another great feature that you can use in the height map. So we've covered most of the things for the height map, and the next one is the weight maps. So let's deep dive a little bit more in them. But in order the weight maps to work, we will need to use the basic landscape material. This comes with the Errant worlds and it is free. It is just a basic material while you're working. It is not a final material for your game, but for the final material you can go and check out my auto landscape material too. So right now what we need to do, go to landscape, select your landscape over here, and we need to drag the basic landscape material into the material slot. Once we put it into our material slot, we start to seeing some textures. Yes, of course, they are not the best and they're not ready for games, but the idea here is just to debug and test out creating your terrain and later on use a proper landscape material. So right now we have snow, we have a little bit of rocks here, we have a little grass, etc. What we need to do here is we need to extract the layers from the landscape material. In order to do that, you need to select your layer. Right now I'm in landscape mode. Under paint, select my layer, and here create layers from assigned materials. So every time you assign a new material, let's say you downloaded my auto landscape material 2, you place it over here. In order to get the information of the layers, you need to create the layers from the assigned material. So click this button. And right now here under materials, you can see that we already having some layers over here, and they're extracted, created from the basic landscape material. Now let's go back to our Errant landscape, select our spiky mountain, then let's add a weight map. So I'm gonna add a weight map over here, and I'm gonna name the first weight map FG Snow. How I get this name is if I go to the landscape and see here the layer, we can see FG Snow. We also have FG Rock, FG Mud, FG Sand, FG Grass. So I'm working with the FG Snow. Let's go back to the Errant landscape. And here under the FG Snow, what we can do here is place a texture. So here the texture that we want to place is the flow map that we've created through a program. So let's say you're working with Gaea. Gaea has the ability to extract flow maps, and I'm gonna explain a little bit more about flow maps. So right now, just plug the flow map over here under texture, wait a little bit, and you can see that right now we have the flow map working over here. And from the adjustments, we can just multiply this just to exaggerate it. In general, when we are creating a terrain over here, we have, let's say, some snow at the north faces of the slopes, we have rocks, we have grass, and every single layer of this, let's say grass is over here, we have rocks over here, we have snow over here, you can extract it as a map. And each layer of texture, let's say grass, snow, rocks, can be extracted from the terrain information from Gaea into a flow map. And after that, you can load up the flow map here and add as many weight maps as you want. And under this weight map, you can say this weight map, the FG Snow, has the snow itself, all right? And let's add one more and name it FG Grass. So right now the FG Snow is getting the information from here, and we are painting this snow onto the landscape based on the splat map. Let's go back into the Errant landscape and let's select the spiky mountain. And when we add FG Grass, Let me just select it, FG grass. And under FG grass, we want to add a texture. Let's say this is our splat map for grass extracted from Gaea. I'm gonna place it over here and I'm gonna just exaggerate everything. So I'm gonna multiply by 5. And you can see that our grass over here is controlled to the weight map over here. All right. So you can place here weight maps and texture your terrain in no time. In general, you create your auto material, then start working with weight maps / splat maps. You extract them from Gaea and you have all the controls here. You have the invert, the contrast, you have the levels, the fall off, everything here you can start controlling, and it is pretty much very customizable. So for example, if you create this volcanic terrain, everything here can be extracted as a splat map and then used in an EL brush to paint the weight map. You can also use an auto material to place the correct textures onto your terrain. So this is very powerful tool, the weight map. When you start combining Gaea workflow with the weight maps here from Errant landscape, you achieve an amazing results. So what you will end up is real world texture positioning from Gaea to Unreal, and the weight maps here has so much controls that you can use in your advantage. And one last thing which is very important later on when we deep dive into Errant biomes is that the weight maps are overlapping. So for example, here we have this grass and we have here this snow, but under the snow we have the grass, just like in the real world. But when you start painting through the layers on your landscape, let's say we go into the landscape, into a paint mode, when you start painting, you're just painting over the grass and the grass is not under it. But here with weight maps, everything is stuck one on top of another. And this is something that you need to consider while we work with biomes, because let's say we start sampling the grass with biomes and we didn't exclude the snow, all right? And the trees will start popping out at the snow. So later on, I'm going to show you how you can, exclude those zones and work with biomes for the procedural spawning of the biome at the right and corrected weight map. So this is something that I want to tell you right now in order for you not to stumble upon later on, and this is very important thing to consider. So those are the basics of the weight maps, and they're very powerful if you work with them correctly. The next very useful feature is that you can filter a lot of the brushes with tags, and let me show you how this works. Imagine that you're working on a very big project and you have hundreds of brushes, and how do you know each brush what it is for? So you can go here into the Errant landscape. Here you can filter brushes and actors. So when you go to the brushes, here you can show brushes matching any of the tags or show brushes matching all of the tags. So how to create a tag? Under my content, I'm going to create a new folder and I'm going to name it brush tags. I'm going to open the folder, right click, and here search for tag, and I'm going to create EL brush tag, which is Errant landscape brush tag. I'm going to open it, and here I have a display name for my brush, mountain. Here I'm gonna pack all the brushes that will deform my landscape into mountains. And then here under notes you can say brushes that deforms the landscape into a spiky mountain. All right, here you can choose a color. So let's say I'm gonna use this color. Click OK and click OK, and I'm gonna name this mountain brushes. All right, so right now we have this brush already, and what we need to do is we need to go into the selection mode and select the brush that we want to tag. I'm gonna select this one, as this is the one that is deforming my mountain. I'm gonna open this up and I'm gonna search for tag, and here under tag there is brush tags, and I'm gonna add a new element, and here under the brush tag first element I'm gonna select mountain brushes. Then let's go back to the visualize, and here I'm gonna select show brushes matching any of the tags, and here we have mountain. So right now we have two brushes over here, but if I click here on the mountain, I'm gonna filter just this one. So the core idea here is when your project is scaling, you have the full control to name your brushes and to filter them out so you can easily work on your landscape. So this is one great way to organize your project and filter all the brushes that you're gonna have into your landscape. This will be very helpful in long term while you're developing your game. The next thing that I want to talk about is here, priority. And this is very important to prioritize your brushes. So in general, when you're placing multiple brushes on top of each other, their priority decides in which order they get rendered and blended together. Brushes with higher priority are rendered later, thus blend on top of brushes with lower priority. You can change the priority if you go over here, and I've created two new brushes. This is the small mountain and this is the crate. And if I start moving them over here, imagine that this is a Photoshop and you're just moving the layers on top of each other and their priority is just changing like that. Also, you can select the brush and let's say we select that small mountain. Right now, I'm just gonna scroll over here. Let me just maximize this. Just gonna scroll over here and here you have the brush priority. You can manually set it up from here. Let's go to priority. If I put one over here, you can see that we are changing the priority without going here in the priority tab. So from the brush itself, you can change the priority. And you also in the icon have this indexing, which means that this is priority 1. If I select this, right now it has priority 0. I can put 3 and you know that this priority is 3. And after changing the priority, what we can do is we can start tweaking the blending mode. So the general blending mode is add and subtract. So if I start moving this, you can see that both brushes, the crater and the small mountain, are subtracting. But let me change the priority. If I change the priority right now, nothing is changing because those two brushes are working on the same add and subtract. But let's try a different mode, which is replace. So I'm gonna go over here and when I choose replace, if I start moving the brush that has a higher priority, in this case is the small mountain, it will start replacing my crater, just like that. If I move it like that, maybe like this, you can see that it is replacing it completely. So right now, if I move this priority to 0, you can see that it is not replacing it completely. But if I put the crater to 1, we still have this blending. So let's select the crater. And when I choose here replace, you can see that now the crater is replacing the mountain. All right. So this is how you can tweak the priorities and how you can play with them. You can see each setting what it's doing if you just hover on it. So let's go over to the max and you can read here, values generated by the brush will be compared with the values that are already on the landscape and higher values will be chosen. So if we go into max, we only have the higher values right now. The lower values from the crater we don't see and we can blend it like that, creating this little shadow. But if we change it to min, we're gonna get the minimum values, which means the pit inside this pit. So if I start moving it like that, you can see that only the pit is start replacing this. If I move it a little bit up, I can create this kind of shape, maybe make it a little smaller. So I can create on the side of this mountain a little crate over here. If I put 0, we will start just blending a little bit of that at the edge over here, because right now the small mountain is on top of the crater. If I move it like that, I'm just gonna bring back also the 1 value. The same goes for every blending mode over here. You can just hover on it and it will tell you what it's going to do. So let's say only subtract. Brush will only remove parts of the landscape, getting in the lower, never higher. So if I choose it and start tweaking them up, you can see that we are working with the landscape only in the lower values. So only the lower values that is, intercepting beneath the sea level over here, the landscape level, will be presented. If I change it to only add, we're going to see only the values that are adding. So I'm just going to put this a little bit higher and we're working only on the up values. All right. So we're just now excluding the inner part, the crater itself. And if we go here, you can see that we are working only with the values that are up on our axis. So blending mode and priorities are a very important part of how your brushes will blend together and how you will work with them. So keep that in mind. The next panel that I want to talk about is mask. Right now we are creating this small mountain by using this stamp, this Heightmap. But what we can do here is just like in Photoshop, if we go to the mask, here we can see that we have white. And white means that this stamp, this Heightmap, is all projected over here. And from here we have hardness of the brush, radius. So if I put 500, it will be a little smaller. let's do 150. It's a little bit bigger. Let's put 250, bigger. And from hardness, if we go all the way up, we'll have a hard brush. If we go all the way to the 0, we'll have a very soft brush. Here are the values. So 0 means black. And if we go to 1, this means we start painting white. And this slider is representing our background value. And finally, this is the visualization opacity. So we can put 0.3 in order if we want to see what we are painting. And the other thing is we can toggle the mask preview. So if I toggle it, right now I can start painting. So let's do value of 0.5 and a background of 0.7. And let's do a little hardness in the middle point. And we start painting. You can see that we start excluding a little bit of the brush. And if we toggle the mask, do it like that, you can see that here we have gray. If we go all the way with the values to 1, we will start returning back the original volume. So let's do 0.2. Let's make it a little soft. And let's turn this on. You can see how we start painting and excluding. And we can do the radius of 500. And we can start creating a little paths over here to the mountain. And of course, you can then later on put another brushes over here to, ease out everything. So this is how we can, paint over to our existing height map and just correct things that we don't want to be there. So this is pretty easy way. Still, the mask panel is to be evolved further, but right now we have some simple controls over here. And if I toggle the mask, you can see that we are starting to create something over here and just shaping it out. So this is another useful panel that you can use in order to have more control over your height map and places that you want to fix. You can go very much here in details, and here we can start micromanaging. So let's say we want a brush of 200 and we want the value to be 0.9. And we want a little, shadow over here, like we're gonna create a path. Let me just create a little path over here. All right. And here, let's say our character will walk, etc. So you can start tweaking this up pretty much like this. And maybe you can do 0.95 and create here another route. All right. So this is another great feature that Errant Landscape supports. So if you want this additional precise control, use masks. Another wonderful feature that Errant Landscape support is visibility. And this is super important if you want to create caves, anything that you need to cut into your terrain. So you want to create new geometry. This will be very useful. And let me show you how it works. Right now, I just placed one bulky mountain over here, just one stamp. As you can see here, let me go to the Errant Landscape, just one stamp over here. And what we need to set up is we need to set up the material of the landscape itself. So I'm going to go into my landscape and see what material we are using. Right now, we are using the Pro Grid material. I'm going to reference to it. I'm going to open the Pro Grid. And we need to add another material attribute in order the mask to work. So I'm going to click on the material attribute, hit plus, and I'm just going to add the opacity mask because we need opacity in order to work. Then I'm going to search for landscape visibility and I'm going to choose landscape visibility mask. We are just going to connect the landscape visibility mask to opacity mask, click save. And right now we have opacity mask working onto our landscape. Keep in mind that this material, if you are using world partition and you have proxies, you need to apply the material to each of the proxies. Right now it is applied by default, so I'm okay. But if you're using a custom material, you need to drag and drop it onto your proxies. Okay, so far so good. So I'm going to select the bulky mountain. I'm going to go to my Errant Landscape. And from here, I'm just going to select this visibility mask. I'm going to open it and it works just like the height map. You have all the settings over here. You can add a texture, you can control the sampling, you can have the fall off, the adjustments, everything you have for the height map. But this works kind of differently. So I'm going to search for bulky and I'm going to choose the bulky mountain. Keep in mind that when you have white, you're going to dig a hole into your landscape. So let's choose this one. And right now, the top of our mountain is just empty. So the idea here is simple. start scattering around objects, maybe create a helipad over here, and it will look like, let's say, a human base. And if you want, let's say, a ladder and a tunnel to go down, you're free to do that. So the idea here is that you can cut holes inside your landscape in order for you to create different kind of levels and inside passages. And let me show you with another texture. Let's choose something like a grid, and let's use a widget grid. And you can see that the white is cutting through and the black is visible. So this is super useful if you have areas in your game that needs to cut through the landscape. Let's say you want to create a gold mine inside your landscape. Let's say here inside this mountain you want to dig a hole. Just use a texture, move it, sample it, and it will work. Another feature that is very useful is under tools. So if you go under tools, here we have change landscape max height. What this tool does is it changes the landscape z-scale while keeping proportions of actors containing errant landscape brushes. So in selection mode, we're going to select those two brushes, and I'm just going to scale them up on the z-axis. And right now we are losing information here. So this is the maximum height that our landscape right now has into the z-axis. So if you go to the tools and change the landscape max height, select the landscape that you're working on, and let's change it to 150. Hit confirm, and we're bringing back more height information, but it's still not enough. So I'm gonna change it a little bit more to 200, and it seems right now we have all the information that we need. So in general, if you hit your max height here under tools, you can change the landscape max height, and this will fix this problem. Another thing that is very useful under tools is update loaded landscape. What update loaded landscape does, if for any reason any of the brush is not loaded, you can manually click the update loaded landscape and everything will be loaded up manually, like you're forcing to refresh. Now let's talk about splines and how you can scatter those brushes across a spline. So what you need to do is, right now I've just placed a mountain range and I'm just gonna click edit the blueprint. Now I'm gonna click open full blueprint editor, and then I'm gonna add a spline. I'm gonna add here a spline. I'm gonna go to the viewport, and I have 2 points in this spline, this one and this one. And I'm gonna select the N one, hold Alt on my keyboard and left mouse button just to create 3 dots. Alright, I'm gonna compile and save. And right now we have here a spline with 3 dots. I'm just gonna select this one and move it a little bit back. This one, shape it on the side, and this one will end up here. And while we select our mountain range, go here under shape, select spline, and here the spline component, I can select it and choose a spline. Alright, and right now this brush is going onto the spline. And let me just shape it out. And here you can create passages, you can create rivers, etc. And the best thing is that all the controls here, so let's go to the UV scale under Heightmap sampling, and let's do 3, let's do 4, and you can see that we are start creating some mountain range. And let's make it a little bit more in height so we can fill it. Alright, I'm just gonna rotate it 180, and if you can see here, we're just creating this passage narrow. You can create river beds, whatever is on your mind. So let's do a scale of 2. See, a little bit spiky. Let's 1.2, 1.5. So anything is possible here. Just tweak those off. I can also enable the fall off so it blends together with my landscape. And the splines are really good if you want to create something like a path, you want to guide the player to a point, etc. And it's pretty easy to set up and start working. It is blending entirely with our terrain. So if I go a little bit up, see, we're creating this ridge over here, so you can create different kind of mountain up and down. Here we step up on the height problem. I already showed you how to fix that. So splines are also a very powerful tool here in Errant landscape. Another thing that I want to show you is how you can use the Errant landscape on 2 separate landscapes. So let me show you how to do this. First, we need to create 2 landscapes. So I'm going to go in landscape. I'm going to create 1 landscape. Let me just focus on it. So we have 1 landscape. I'm going to go to manage, new, and create 1 more. I'm just going to move it like that. and leave a little gap. I'm gonna hit create, and right now we have two landscapes. The important thing is we need to create two layers. So let's go into paint, and right now we have layer. I'm gonna hit plus, create a new layer, landscape edit layer, select it. And this layer will be called Errant landscape. I'm just gonna copy the name, lock the layer. Go to my first landscape, and here we need to create one more layer, landscape edit layer. I'm gonna name it Errant landscape, and I'm gonna lock it. So right now what we have is the controlling two layers for each landscape. Then what we need to do is we need to find the Errant bridge. And how to find it? You need to go to the settings and you need to check show plugin content. After you check show plugin content, we need to scroll all the way down to Errant landscape C++ classes. Then search for Errant bridge, and you're gonna find the C++ Errant bridge. And then we need to drag and drop it onto our scene. And this will start bridging together the two landscapes. And how to bridge them, you need to add per landscape setting. So I'm gonna add two landscapes. You can add as many as you want, of course. And for the owning landscape, I'm gonna select landscape 1, and we're gonna select the Errant landscape layer. For the second one, second landscape, we're going to select the Errant landscape. And here is the difference. We need to select the Errant landscape bridge and then go to the Errant landscape. And from here we will spawn the actor class. So let's say Bokeh Mountain. So I'm gonna add this Bokeh Mountain. I'm gonna click on my first landscape. And right now we added the Bokeh Mountain. I'm just gonna shrink it a little bit, the brush itself. And if I zoom in, you can see that this brush right now is affecting two landscapes. So this is how you can control and work with brushes on two different separate landscapes. This is also a useful feature if you have multiple landscapes in your game. And this is how Errant World can work through a bridge. So that's pretty much it, guys. This summarizes the basics of Errant landscape. See ya in my next video.